Okay. So our usual start, just rubbing your hands together. Tapping over your face. Over your head and neck. Down to one shoulder. And your arm. And on the other side. Arch your chest. Belly. Legs. Sitting back. Feeling your weight drop back. And everything we associate with that, because I remember my first teacher, I've probably said this to you before, but telling us in the standing position that we find ourselves standing like that in supermarket queues. It's an association between mind and body that you recognize a certain thing, that sense of letting go into the chair, your hip sinking, the root developing, whatever it is, that triggers a sort of series of responses. So we associate the start of the Tai Chi with this quietening, this settling, with the feeling of our weight dropping back, whatever we actually notice, really.
Hi,
breathing nice and relaxed.
And just thanks for your call.
Turn that down.
Just yet, but if you'd like to leave a message, I can.
Sorry about that. Notice what happens in your ribs, your shoulders, and then just drawing your feet in slowly, coming to the more upright position, settling back down again with the kind of being slightly forwards. Hips sinking down, long feeling through your back. Some people like to imagine that a cord attached to the crown of their heads, just drawing them gently up towards the ceiling. And that helps to give you that longer, broader feeling in your back sometimes. Now, turning your head. And then shoulders. and going forwards. Hands down to your sides. And the hips sinking down, so kind of sinking into your chair a little bit. You can be slightly forwards, not have to sort of like use the back of your chair, that's fine, but don't do that at the expense of your back. So if your back is tightening up, sit back with it. Just ease off a little bit. And then winding around. And back the other way. And rest. Ease forward. And push back. You come back this time, make that little turn, so you're going out at a slight angle. And then the other side. And around. Back the other way. And back to the center. And then slightly over to one side so that you can lift the opposite foot, take the step. So put down, move across slightly on the other side. And then alternating from side to side. So there's that little sort of shift across each time. Movement in the pelvis, quite subtle. It's the last one. Hands down. Rotate out, go the chest opening, and then bird folds its wings. So when you go forward, as you come back, you're going to change to fisherman castanet. Imagining the resistance as though you're moving in water. And then the ball underneath your arms, pushing your arms up, rolling the ball in. Try not to stiffen in your upper back, your shoulders or neck as you return to the upright position, bring your arms up. Elbows hanging down slightly. And then change into pigeon spreads its wings. As you're stretching out the elastic band. As you come forwards and press in, to change the image, you can again imagine a spring there. Imagine the ball that you're squeezing or balloon that you're squeezing in. And that movement in particular, think of what's happening in your chest as you do that. The squeeze isn't just your arms, it's the whole of your upper body. So now, coming in and just rotate your hands, draw your fingers back. So now suddenly you're into double-handed push, or pushing away, rather, it's called it. Do one more of these. And then punch with both fists. One more of these, and then we'll go back to pigeon spreads its wings and do our little set of 3 movements. So you can feel the changeover and realize that actually it's quite economic. Although from the outside the movements look quite different in many ways, actually from the inside it doesn't feel that different. You're still moving your weight forwards and backwards. Chest is opening and closing and opening. Notice how my elbows go out and closing. And then here, opening again because you're rotating, and that draws the chest out as we noticed earlier. And closing. So the basic dynamic is there, and at least some of the final result is because there's a choice there, isn't there? These are the exercises that, in a sense, we have chosen to do. So these are the exercises whose images and memories we recall, and all of those are factors. Now this time, turning further out and carrying on with the set of movements. Here we can really feel that opening and closing, leading into the push. I exaggerate, it's like this movement, then everything sort of comes in. It's more subtle than that, but like most things in Tai Chi. Bring your hands in and then change. That pattern of movement, opening and closing, expanding, contracting through your upper body continues, but in a different plane, sort of vertically, rather than more horizontally. Changing after this one to the wild goose. Part in the clouds. And then change. Dragon plucks the stars from the sky. Take your time and just notice that there's often an urge to start to rush this. That usually makes itself apparent in a sort of feeling that you want to start moving the arm that's just hanging just a little before you properly finish with the moving arm. So when you do this, focus on that moving arm. So your elbow pulls your wrists and your fingers down, and then at a certain point, the hand drops below your elbow, fingers open, spreading out slightly. And only then are we ready to transfer the movement to the other side. Same thing here, of course. Elbow dropping into the space, and dropping down, beginning to open just a little. One more round. Now both hands together. Bring that hand down. Swing your hands in front of your hips. Two-way push, pushing up. And sideways. Both directions, your hands are just slightly in front of your body. So you retain this longer, broader feeling in the back and spine. And in fact, the movements seem to sort of really develop that. One set of movements goes up, the other goes out. Hips sinking down, center of gravity dropping through the chair. So this time you can turn in your hips. again, give yourself plenty of time to complete each stage. Very common reaction when we're doing a sequence, however simple, is that a kind of uncertainty, a doubt about, am I doing the right bit? Should I have done this bit or whatever? Almost a kind of panic in a way. And our response is always going to be the same, to come back to here. If you do get lost in the sequence, if you come back to that starting and finishing position here, then we'll catch you up in a moment or two. So nothing to sort of tense up about. We'll make this the last one. And then scooping the sea and looking at the sky. So that settling in and that sort of just almost resting at certain points in a movement, very characteristic of Tai Chi. And one of the characteristics of some of the really great sort of Tai Chi players I've been lucky enough to encounter is that they will carry that sort of quality of stillness with them quite often. And then grasping the tiger's ears. And then on the side, scooping the sea. So we begin to cultivate what is sometimes referred to as the stillness within the movement. And then grasping the tiger's ears. And then one of the most memorable examples I had of that quality of stillness came when a friend of mine up in Manchester hosted a great Tai Chi teacher from Edinburgh called Ian Cameron. And the group went up from Cambridge, and we were staying with my friend, and so was Ian. But we arrived there on a wet, miserable, sort of like November evening, and got there early evening, and it was all very nice, and we went out and had a meal together and so on and so forth. Came back and were sitting around chatting, and somebody produced a guitar and people were singing songs and so on and so forth. Meanwhile, poor old Ian was coming down from Edinburgh to Manchester. We got a phone call at one point because it was a bit late. We were wondering what was going on. And somehow he had to leave the motorway. There was a diversion, there were roadworks, and he got lost in Bradford. So it's pouring with rain, it's dark, he's teaching the next day, he's come from Edinburgh, he's lost in Bradford. Not great, really. Then we didn't hear anything for a while, but he got to Manchester, still raining, got a phone call, he's a bit lost in Manchester, so my friend guided him in. I don't know about you, but after a kind of journey like that, especially if I had a busy day the next day, I'd be really spitting nails. I'd be really, and I'd want everybody to listen to what a terrible journey that I had. So when Ian arrived, and I've never met him before, and he kind of slipped into the group. You know, imagine a situation like that, you arrive in a complete bunch of strangers and everybody's happy and you're on the outside of it kind of thing. And yet it was like watching a fish swim through water. There was no ripple. And it was very, very impressive. I mean, the seminar the next day was great, but I think the most impressive thing was just how somebody could have a journey like that and come into that kind of situation and without getting irritated by it, without getting tense by it. It was a really good example of that stillness quality, that calmer quality that Tai Chi can help us to cultivate. And it's a very interesting sort of like memory to have of it. Now, just go back to this. We're going to move into bear play, but let's remind ourselves of this, the movement in the ribs, shoulder blades, up and back. You know, maybe a little bit, I sometimes find myself doing this, I'm like, it's a little bit of a push from the hip. So if I exaggerate, you can maybe just see my head going up and down a little bit. And then you start to turn. And then bear play. So when we start to do the turn, we realize the significance of hips and waist, that central part of the body. And we might think of that as the still center, like the hub of a wheel. Another physical location, if that helps, for that stillness, a point that we can bring our attention to remind ourselves of that stillness would of course be the feet and the feeling of rooting down. Either is fine, because it's really just something that allows you to switch your attention away from the movement, which, you know, especially if the movement is a bit frenetic for one reason or another. There's a lot going on around us, or people talking, or you know, we're in a shop and it's busy, or you know, whatever the situation is, to redirect our attention away from that into something that we associate with that quality of stillness, calmness that we find in Tai Chi. So bear play. And this time, come to this position, and instead of raising the elbows, let the hands drop down. Go into wind blows the willows. And your weight moving slightly here. Your weight moves into the leg that you're turning towards. So if your right shoulder goes forwards, weight moves a little into the right side of your body and your right foot, and vice versa. So you can begin to raise the opposite heel. And if it's comfortable, raising the whole foot. One more time. And rest. Lovely. So rubbing your hands together again. Tapping over your face. Over your head and neck. Onto one shoulder. Your arm. The other side. Part of your chest. Belly. And then your legs. Okay. And stand. So first of all, just standing and just do this exercise, swaying in the river. Just feeling that slight movement really through the arch of your foot more than anything else. The big muscles there, the base of the foot and the heel. Again, with a very gentle sort of massaging quality. Even as you go forwards, pivoting from my hips. When I get to about here, it's very subtle, but there's this slight period of lengthening once again through the spine. And then my hips drop back and the spine seems to contract in. And just think of the spaces between the vertebrae expanding and contracting. There's quite a few of them. There's some in the region of about 30. Is there something like that? I can't remember. So each one just extends by a millimeter, a tiny amount, not a lot. The sum total is actually much bigger, isn't it? A sort of wave coming forwards and upwards through the body. And then sinking down and pushing up. Hips going back, remember, not knees going forwards. Just allowing yourself to sink until you feel the springiness of your legs just beginning to push you up. And then the wild goose. And parting the clouds. Sinking down and then just your weight transfer from side to side. So we did this a little bit in the chair, this movement from side to side. We do it when we were doing stepping. We did it when we were doing bear play. So if you look from the side when I do this, and again I'll exaggerate, so my knee will go out of line, which it shouldn't do, but I come across and it's this kind of feeling there. And then I come across the other way to here. So doing that and having your hands in front of you for the moment. And again, you know, when we do this, we often use the image of carrying a tray of drinks or something. So then, the standing version of bear play. Notice where my hand goes down. So I've almost got a straight line, shoulder, elbow, hand, foot, almost. It's as straight as it's going to get in real life, isn't it? Shake it. One foot forwards. And once again, when you get to the end of a stage of the movement, transfer forwards and backwards, just rest, just wait a little until you feel push back. Or at least until you're able to get a sense that you're properly settled. So it's not sort of this. Raising your toes and your heel. And then stepping in. And then on the other side. Raising your toes and your heel. Stepping in, what we refer to sometimes as the following step, because your weight goes in, your weight goes down, the foot follows. And then step through. Either forwards or backwards, depending on where you have the space. and then going back. And shake out. Fisherman cast the net. And then sink back and turn, for wind blows the willows. Knees and toes and heel if it's comfortable for you. And then stepping in. And on the other side. Change. Again, toe and heel. And if it's comfortable for you, you can introduce the step in. You don't have to lift the foot up, you can just step in again. Yeah. If you find yourself wobbling around and losing the flow, it's not worth it. moving the feet. Excellent. Let's go back to the chairs. So coming back to the mountain, embrace tiger, return to the mountain. It's this idea of coming back to that central feeling. And there's many images, many labels that we could associate with that. As I said, there's if you like, we could choose a physical location for it. Always best to choose something lower in the body, because we naturally associate those qualities with a settling downwards, a rooting downwards. So whichever kind of like image idea works for you, just focus on that, or notice how that's working in your body. Embrace tiger, return to mountain. One more round. And rest. Okay. Well, that went quickly again. Everything's gone really quickly this week for me. It's strange, isn't it? Anyway, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care. And I'll
Yes,
see
bye.
you soon.
Have a great Sunday, Sarah.
Yes, yes,
Yes,
enjoy yourself for the
Yes, we
party,
will.
Sarah.
We will. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.